Hello, beautiful world. Welcome to episode 11 of Happiness from Within. I'm your host, Jeanette Prado. I'm really excited to bring you guys episode 11 today. I had the honor to sit down with an amazing gentleman. His name is Torre Washington. He is a vegan pro builder, athlete, a coach. And in this amazing episode, we're going to talk about his journey into veganism, bodybuilding, and building a grounded life that aligns powerfully with his beliefs. So some of the highlights that we're going to be talking about is Torre's journey from vegetarian to vegan, and from a bullied kid to power builder, being authentic when telling your story, why you shouldn't try to reach your goals, dealing with haters and criticism when you make a change, rethinking your concept of boring vegan food, how to approach nutrition from a perspective of gratitude and wonder, and why you shouldn't have cheat meals and what to do instead, and Torre's philosophy on building a life, L-I-F-E, living in freedom every day you're proud of, one day at a time. One of the most inspirational things that I really learned from Torre and these other amazing vegans that I've been interviewing is when I went to this event, it was one of my first vegan events, and I had never heard of an athletes that don't eat meat to build muscle. I personally was like, how is that possible? So going to this event when I met Johnny Deucer, Torre Washington, and Badass Vegan, and these other amazing entrepreneurs, was that if you make the choice to not eat meat, you can absolutely build muscle. And so Torre is an amazing individual with an amazing heart, and he shares so much value in this interview. And I am so excited for you guys to listen to today's amazing episode. So I just encourage you to sit back, relax, grab your favorite green smoothie, maybe a cup of coffee or tea, and I'll catch you in the interview. Hello, and welcome to episode 11 of Happiness from Within. I'm your host, Jeanette Prado. Today we have a really amazing, incredible guest. It's such an honor to be interviewing this gentleman. His name is Torre Washington. He has been a vegan since 1998. He is a pro builder, athlete, and has helped thousands of people. And I'm really excited to share his story today with you guys. Torre, go ahead and introduce yourself.
First of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be able to share my story and share my journey within this lifestyle. And I appreciate you taking the time to do this. My name again is Torre Washington. As you heard of him, I've been bodybuilding since 2009. I started competing 2009, but I began my vegan plant-based lifestyle in 1998. Raised vegetarian, and just using my time on this earth and this planet and within this space to be able to share with people my journey, my lifestyle, so that they can make the decision upon themselves to do what's best for their body. So Janet, I appreciate you taking this time to have me here and give me this opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. It was amazing to meet you and Johnny Juicer and Badass Vegan and Dominic Thomas at the that event that you guys had. So, really appreciate you guys coming out. It was a pretty packed house. So, but yeah. So when I was reading somewhere, you're from Alabama. Is that correct?
So I was born in Alabama, but I really trace my roots and my actual heritage to Jamaica. My family's Jamaican, and I was born in Alabama, lived in Jamaica, came back to Alabama, and then lived there for about 9 years, moved to Jamaica again, and went to school in Jamaica and everything. And then I moved back to the States. And when I moved back to the States from Jamaica the second time, I lived in South Florida. And South Florida was pretty much where I was raised, middle school, high school, back and forth from college. South Florida is considered my home. Alabama is just a place that started out my beginnings, but I don't recognize it as being about where I'm from. I think, in my opinion, people can determine where they're from based on what they are, what vibes with them. And Alabama doesn't vibe with me, because if I were to vibe with Alabama, I probably would sound much different than I sound now.
Sure. Okay, no, that's beautiful. And you were with your grandfather, is that correct, in Jamaica? I read somewhere.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about your upbringing, and just were you? I know you started a plant-based diet in '98, but like, was anyone in your family plant-based, or if you can talk a little bit about what your upbringing was about, anything you'd like to share to inspire the audience?
Yeah, so I was raised vegetarian. My mother was of the religious background called the Seventh-day Adventists, and the Seventh-day Adventists are typically vegetarian vegans or plant-based per se. And so she raised my brother and myself in this lifestyle, and that's all we knew. So to us, it wasn't anything different. We didn't know any different as to, okay, we should be eating meat or what have you, because that's not what we were used to. But when we moved to Jamaica to live with our grandparents, and this is where I think a lot of people get things confused or misconstrued. And I just want to say that I'm not a person to really create a mixed message for engagement. What I mean by that is, I'm not going to say, I've never eaten meat or this, that, and the other, because to me, I think it's better to be real and true and honest about your lifestyle or how you were brought up, because people that don't know because you're not telling them. So you allow them to create the message for you. So when we moved to Jamaica, my grandparents didn't know anything about the vegetarian lifestyle, because Jamaicans all mostly ate curry goat and curry chicken, jerk pork, rice and peas, dumpling, all those types of foods. Mm-hmm. And they were used to that. So my mother moved us to Jamaica with my grandparents so she could make a better life for us. She just asked them to not feed us pork, because it was truly bad to eat pork based on biblical standards. And so my grandparents agreed with that, but they just basically fed us what they ate. And at that time, for those 3 years, we ate meat. So we had goat, we had chicken, we had beef, and all those things. We had the basic Jamaican dietary guidelines, what they eat there. And so once we moved back to the U.S., we are back with our mother, but we're still consuming that because that's what we were used to that at the time. It's not until I started to realize that I needed to change that and go, because I was getting more into the Rastafarian lifestyle. So seeing the Rastafarian lifestyle, and that I really wanted to move in that space, and because I felt like it connected to me more. And Rastas live a Aital lifestyle, and Aital is natural, vegan, or what have you. But I realized that being a Rasta, most of the Rastas that I knew of were not actually fully going into the lifestyle of being Aital. Like, they still would consume chicken and fish and what have you. And to me, I didn't want to call myself a Rasta and not be exactly what it's supposed to be. So I decided to make that switch myself. And in 1998, I shifted that. And unbeknownst to my other brethren, other friends, they still stuck with eating other things, because Rasta wasn't to them in a mindset of what you consume as well. It was more of I smoke ganja, smoke weed, and then I'm into Haile Selassie, and that was enough. And that, to me, that wasn't enough. So I decided to take it further, and didn't know anything about what vegan was because I'd never heard the terminology before. And so I didn't learn about vegan, I guess, until about in the early 2000s, because I was already eating that way since 98. And then people mentioned it to me, and I said, well, what the heck is that? That's when I started to recognize it a little bit more. But I had to understand it more because, being a people from, that have been brought to this country, and the history that has been promoted is of slavery. If you think about it, we were treated lesser than animals. And so I didn't understand the whole aspect of vegan when it comes to the animals, because I looked at it as just about the food aspect of it. And that's all I knew. So I had to learn more about the lifestyle going on until now.
Wow. Thank you very much for sharing that. So, moving forward, so you from what I read somewhere, you started to watch the physique of Arnold Schwarzenegger, or actually, if we can back up a second, you started, I believe, with dumbbells when you were younger. Is that correct? You picked up your first dumbbell. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So when it comes to the bodybuilding, think about, I was a young kid moving from one country to another. And, you know, when kids could be very, very mean. And when I got to Jamaica, of course, me and my brother, I don't know if my brother, but we got picked on. And we got picked on because of how we sounded. You know, we came from we came from Alabama. And Alabama, you know, they have a real rural country accent.
Yeah.
And that accent of itself, I think, caused the kids to pick on us, and they started making fun of how we spoke. I internalized that anger because I didn't know how to respond. And it led me to working out, only because I was looking for a way an outlet to make myself look different. So my grandfather he was an electrician. He had this heavy iron weight that was just something he used to do soldering on, and he used it on his bench. And I just started curling that, started doing crunches and push-ups as a 9-year-old, 10-year-old. And next thing I know, we moved back to the States, and I was getting picked on again, this time because of how I sounded as a person from the islands. And of course, the kids were mean, like, hey, you just came off a banana boat, this, that, and the other. And my mom bought me a dumbbell, and we were able to get a cheap bench. And I started using this one dumbbell, doing flat bench presses, because I started reading magazines and got into Arnold Schwarzenegger because I was so into comic books. I was into Wolverine and Superman. And I looked at them as superheroes, wanting to be a superhero myself. But once I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger, that gave me a visual in which to see, okay, this is possible, and this is how it's done, by lifting these weights. And that's where I started into the process of becoming a bodybuilder.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Like, you started already having that as a child. If it's possible, can you maybe possibly elaborate a little bit about having vision and maybe setting goals for someone out there maybe that's like, well, what is one step I can take today to start doing that? Because sometimes I think we get so stuck on maybe keeping things simple, you know?
When you're saying setting goals and you're talking about as far as what, bodybuilding or?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Use that as an example. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because when it comes to goal setting, I'll be honest with you. I never really set goals. I basically mentally set them. I said, you know, I want to compete here. And so I knew what I needed to do in order to make that happen. And what I realized is that most people always try to do things. And I say that with an emphasis, try. Try isn't to make an attempt to fail. And I learned that from a very empowering woman by the name of Danny Johnson. To try is to make an attempt to fail. What that means is when you mention the word try, just like anything, when you mention the words, your body hears exactly what your mind and your mouth say. So try doesn't even sound like someone who's committed to doing anything. You know, when you are more committed, you say, I will, or I do, or I am. That changes the commitment within your body to making it happen. And I think a lot of times in this society, commitment is hard to do. You know, whether it be committing to a goal that you have set to, I don't know, maybe earn $10,000 a month. You know, what are the steps you're taking to do that? Because a lot of times we expect it to happen overnight. And when it doesn't happen overnight, like when we put something in the microwave, we reduce ourselves to say, well, maybe I'm not able to do that. And that's not necessarily true. So if you set a goal or are determining an end to what you started, you have to be first committed to it. And you can write it down, but sometimes even writing it down process is not enough because it's only temporary. You can scratch it out for something else because it didn't happen when the timing that you expected it to happen. And that's just like digging for something or going for something or going after something and not reaching it in that time and giving up on it. And I see that happen a lot where people want to reach something and the progress is taking so long that they tend to say that it's not possible and leave it alone. So I would say in order to be one who finishes or reaches that goal, you have to be committed, committed mentally, committed spiritually, committed physically to making it happen, and be understanding about your journey. Because just because that person may have had it happen faster, that doesn't mean that yours can happen. It's not going to happen because theirs happened faster. If you know what I mean.
Wow. That was amazing. Thank you for that. So I think that's a perfect transition into, if it's possible, we can jump into, so you had went to your first competition, I believe it was in 2009. Is that correct? Can you talk about a little bit what happened before that and what motivated you to go into that direction?
Yes. So here I am lifting weights, just a regular gym rat, going to high school and what have you, reading muscle magazines, watching Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, and being inspired by his body and learning, and then being inspired by other bodybuilders that I started to read about. And 2000, I had wanted to compete while in high school, and it just never transpired because I started doing other things, being a kid and just going out, doing things. Then I went on to college, and in college I started to work out still. I even started training people from high school and then in college without a degree in training. But it was something I was so passionate about that I love to see the results that I can help people do or accomplish in a sense. And so after college, because I got an engineering degree in college, I went to work in corporate America, and I started working. And I realized one day, one of my colleagues or friends from high school that I kept in contact with sent me a message that one of our other friends had started competing in bodybuilding. And this was a shock to me because I never knew of this guy to be into bodybuilding. So I said, what? Exclamation. I need to go check this guy and see what's going on. And he told me that he's competing in Atlanta. Now, I was living in Alabama at the time, working in Alabama as an engineer. And Atlanta was like an hour and a half away. So I decided to drive over and watch his competition. And Janet, once I got there, I saw him on stage. Meanwhile, I thought I looked amazing because I was working out. I saw him on stage and he won his pro card. He had been competing for a while and he finally won his pro card that day. And when I saw him off stage, the way his body looked so chiseled, like artwork and like a sculpture, it reminded me of that superhero look. And I was inspired to compete after seeing him. I said to myself, you know what? I do not want to be at the end of my life and say I should have, or I wish I did. I didn't want to be a should have. I wanted to be a doer. And I decided to, at that moment, I said, you know what? Seeing how ripped and shredded his abs looked, I said, I want to compete. And I never forget this. He said, but you're vegan. And to me, that didn't make any sense because I was able to put on size and build muscle and all of that, and not concerned about what I was eating. I just didn't eat meat or cheese or eggs. And so that didn't bother me. So I was surprised to hear people say that. And so we started getting ready for the show. And in 2009, I did my first competition. It was about 12 guys up there, I think it's 8 to 12. And I got third place. That alone inspired me because I said to myself, it's my first time doing this. And I beat all of these other guys who are nowhere near being vegan and got third place. And I'll never forget that because I talked to the judge and I asked, why did I get third? Because I saw the second place guy and I thought to myself, how did he beat me? I knew the first guy was going to win because when he walked into the bathroom, everybody was like, whoa, he's not in our class, is he? But he was ridiculous. Anyways, the judge told me it's because of my posing. I wasn't able to hold my posing for long enough on stage. And Janet, another goal. I set my goal for that next time I was going to compete, that wouldn't happen again. And I made sure of it. So I practiced. And the second time I competed, not only did because I was just thinking to get second place for the next show, not only did I win it, my division, I won the entire show where you have to go up against the winners for every other class. And I got a pro card that day. So I got my pro card within my second show. And that is what started all of this, is seeing that progress and sticking to it made me realize, okay, this is something I'm really good at. Now, let's go.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. That's absolutely incredible. So along the way, I can't imagine, I'm sure that you were going through some challenges, because I remember hearing or reading somewhere that what had happened is you started to get criticism. People were saying like, what, you're vegan? And can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges you were starting to have in the beginning in regards to that and how you overcame it?
I get this question often about the challenges that I face being vegan. And I never, to be honest with you, I didn't face challenges. I think I faced more jokes and satire from people, because people knew me from a long time of being this way. And now, just to kind of shift and go back, now they look at it like, dang, Torre, you've been doing this for years. And I wish we had joined you back then. We just didn't know what we didn't know. When I started bodybuilding and competing, and I was going backstage, I had already created this name of this guy was always in the best condition. I would beat bigger guys, and didn't matter what the show was, I was going to be in the top 3, no matter what. And I wasn't the biggest dude, but I was the most, had the most complete package. And so what I would receive a lot from the judges is, man, if you could be a little bigger, you would always win. You sure you don't want to start eating some meat? And I said, nope, I'm good. And then, I would get from the backstage, the other contestants would say, man, how are you so shredded, but you don't eat any meat? I'm like, nah, you don't eat no fish? Nope. And so then they would be inspired, man, I need to talk to you, because I'm so tired of just consuming chicken and fish and asparagus and green beans, chicken and fish and asparagus and green beans for 8 weeks. They have to eat the same thing and to get that look. And I'm looking better than them. So, because they were told that they can't have fruit and bread and this and that, because it would not allow them to get to the way they need to look. Not understanding scientifically, it's calories, it's nutrition, it's carbs, fats, protein, and they're looking at it as, oh, I got to eat this specific food to get what I need. That's not the truth. And so it's amazing to see that now people are getting that and understanding it, when back then they didn't.
Wow. Thank you very much for sharing that. So when you started getting questions and people asking you what it is that you're doing, my question to you is, as you started continuing your journey of bodybuilding, actually, let's do this. I would love to go into actually the nutritional aspect of what you eat on a daily basis. So are you eating every 2 hours, or if you can jump into like what you have for breakfast or how you change it up so you don't get bored?
Yeah, see, for me, when it comes to my nutrition, I eat so many different things. And the only time I'm ever really just consistent with what I'm eating in order to just keep it simple is the last week of prep for my competition. Like, for example, I compete in 2 weeks. And this week coming up, I still will be eating a lot of different things. The following week, I will eat more of the things that are easier and simple to put together, because it makes it easier for that last week. So, for example, I get this question as far as what my typical day is. My typical day is never typical. And why do I say that is I like to eat. I like to eat food versus drinking smoothies and shakes and what have you, because I like the process of chewing and tasting the flavor in the food and then swallowing it. And so I will eat anything from, typically, one of my main substances that I eat that I've been eating for years. And, a lot of times there's been such a demonization of this food is I've eaten tofu probably since I was born. My mother fed us soy stuff when we were younger, and I ate. And when I became more and more plant-based vegan, tofu was the easiest thing for me to come by, because it was always readily available. And back in those days, 1998, that's what was the mainstay, and beans and what have you. And, I was a college student and stuff, so I wasn't really doing beans that much because it's taking too long to cook. I would skillet up some tofu and as something that'll be good. So I used to, at one point I was eating a lot of breakfast would be oatmeal, peanut butter, blackstrap molasses, cacao, raisins. That was I was doing that for years, every morning. And then as I got closer to a competition, I would take out some of the items to make it less calorie dense to allow me to still eat oatmeal, because oatmeal is a good base of carbohydrates, fiber, protein, what have you. And now I can tell you I don't remember the last time I've had oatmeal. I still have it in my pantry, but I haven't eaten it that much. I eat more Ezekiel cinnamon toast bread. I may do a shake here and there, only to meet a requirement, because in the past, Janet, I never hired a coach or anyone to help me. I did it all myself because I enjoyed the process of doing it for myself, and I still could help others. But as I'm getting more involved, I've become a lot busier now. Mm-hmm. And so it's harder for me to focus on other people as well as myself in order to do really well in these competitions. So within the last year, I hired a coach, and I realized this. I had to recognize it to myself. Every great coach has a coach. So his requirement was me to increase my protein intake, which was not something that I was doing. I was always eating more carbs, and it worked. But he's taking it from a different standpoint, and I don't mind. It's also a way for me to be able to explain to people how they both work and not knock one without knowing both of them. And so now that I'm doing a higher protein intake, it's giving me the means to where I have to now increase my shake intake, my protein shake intake, just to meet that protein requirement that's been given to me. Mind you, it's an interesting dilemma, not a dilemma, interesting dilemma, because, like I said, that's not the way I used to do it. I always had more carbs. Japanese sweet potatoes are my most favorite carbohydrate to go to, or starchy vegetable. Roots, per se. I love all vegetables. I eat them all. Broccoli, asparagus, bok choy. I like to switch it up, get edamame. I will get corn, green beans, lima beans, broad beans, black beans, peas. I like to switch it up. There'll be weeks I'll get something different. I have a very big sweet tooth, so I'll grab something sweet, maybe some cocoa dusted almonds that'll satisfy me, or I'll have a scoop here and there of Nadamu ice cream, some Halo Top ice cream. I'll fit it all in, because within the calories that I have per day, I do my best to fit in things that I like, so that way it's an more enjoyable process than just eating things that I don't like because of their nutritional content. Everything has nutrition. It's just how you manipulate it in order for it to meet your requirements for the day and week and what have you. And I've been able to do that. I've been able to do that this entire time, this last year. And it makes it more fun. I actually find maybe solace is not the right word, but I find enjoyment in putting different foods into my meal plans for the week to make it fun. And, I can say I had some Bonitos. I love Bonitos. Bonitos are black bean chips that have a really good fiber reading, good protein, good carbohydrates, just a really good balance. And I love to include things like that when it comes to my eating. I do also field roasts. There's seitan sausages and frankfurters and things like that. I love seitan. Seitan is one of my favorite staples, as well as I do tofurkey. I do a lot of yogurt, which Vega makes a yogurt that's really good. I like their strawberry, blueberry. I do plant milk by Bolt House. I don't know why I'm telling you the actual brand names.
No, please keep going. It's good. Keep going.
But you use the Bolt House. They have a great unsweetened milk that actually is pea protein based, and it has 10 grams of protein in one serving, which a lot of times, because I know within this community, and a lot of times people that are switching over always attempt to make the assumption that you're not going to be able to get what you need. And it's so doable. But I found something that's even probably the best thing I found so far. It's called Longev Brands created a protein crumbles made out of pea protein, not TV. It's a TVP, but it's not of soy. And I say that because a lot of people are now having not a lot. There are people who have an allergic reaction to soy and other things, nuts and what have you. And with this new brand of food, it has 39 grams of protein in a 55-gram serving. That's a lot compared to what people assume they're not able to get out of a plant-based vegan lifestyle.
Wow.
So, yeah. And it's crazy because the fat content is 4 grams and the carbohydrate is 4 grams. So imagine that. That's almost on the realm of a meat to what people are always talking about.
Wow.
So I've been using that. It's dehydrated and you can flavor it like tofu to whatever you want it to be and put it into, you can do, there's so many different things you can do with it.
What's the name of that one again? If you can repeat.
The company that makes it is Longev, Long, as in go, EV, V as in Victor, E. Okay, Longev Brands and the name, and it's called Protein Crumbles.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. So yeah, it's not typical. There are days where I may do something totally different when it comes to eating for my day.
Thank you for sharing that. So do you ever cook some of your food a little bit to have something warm?
Oh yes, I cook all the time. Well, not all the time. Yes, I do. Yes, what I'm talking about. I make my tofu. I make my vegetables. I make my all of those things. I do them. I like cooked food. And I like raw food. I think as a vegan, plant-based person, we should be able to incorporate all types of foods because that way you're not just being extreme on one side and your body responds in a certain way.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't mind me adding, because obviously everybody's body's different, you have to listen to your body as far as what your body needs. That's amazing. And so people that you train, do you train just men or do you also train women?
Well, I'm going to actually create this video that's going to come soon. That's a real blurb of my coaching. And to be honest with you, 90% of my clients are women.
Really? Wow. I didn't know that. Yeah. Wow.
And so I've been called the guy, it's just a funny thing. People are like, yeah, we call you the ass man. I'm like, what? Because I've been able to help women shape their butts into amazing proportions using, techniques that I know that are sound and what have you. But I prepare women for competition, men for competition. I train men as well. But like I said, it's mainly women. So I'm gonna do a video of just like real quick blurbs of boom, 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 women that I've trained, working out hard and what have you. So it's going to be pretty interesting how to put that together. But I train everybody. I coach everyone.
Wow, that's really inspirational. Thank you for sharing that. Definitely when you come out with those videos, I'll have to add that to the description below and make sure people have access to that. So I just have a few more questions and then we can wrap up. Again, thank you so much. This has just been a really exciting interview. How would you describe yourself in 3 words?
3 words. I would describe myself in 3 words as loyal, compassionate, and grounded.
Wow. Thank you very much for that. The next question to you is, when you take your last breath, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh, when I take my last breath, I want to be remembered as someone that cared about people, animals, and cared enough to do something about it versus just talking about it.
Wow. Thank you for that. And my next question for you is, what does happiness from within mean to you?
So I can look at it as, because I have a term that I use often called life. Living in freedom every day. And what I mean by living in freedom is your life isn't dictated by or moved by others or by money or what have you. You're able to make the decisions on your own. So happiness from within for me would be being able to be at one with myself and one with the universe, and not needing an outside influence to make me happy, or someone to make me happy. Because if I'm depending on others or an outside force to make me happy, then I can always be unhappy, because what if they don't meet up with what I'm looking for? So if I'm happy from within, I can stay happy. And when those times come where I feel like I'm a little down, I just have to get connected back with my innermost self, innermost being, to recenter myself to being happy again.
Wow. Wow, that really touched my soul. That was, wow. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, my pleasure. You're welcome.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a curious question. Now knowing that you train women, you obviously help them also with the nutritional aspect. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I'm curious, because I actually had a few people reach out to me asking this question that they wanted to ask you. Can you touch a little bit on emotional eating? Because I know at one point or another, it's something that we all go through. I mean, I personally have had moments where I just want to grab a bag of chips and just stuff my face and go in a room and, but would you mind touching a little bit on that, of maybe just anything you'd like to share, maybe steps one can take, or just mindset wise, just anything that comes to your heart?
Right. So when it comes to, steps to take when it comes to emotional eating, I feel that sometimes it's okay because I can look at it as very similar to binge eating. Sometimes people binge eat because they've been restricted from something so long. And I think that's the same thing when it comes, not same thing, but very similar to emotional eating, because you're binging. You're eating foods just to kind of replace that emotion you're missing. And so I would say, just like when it comes to binge eating, a lot of times we get into it and then we feel so bad about ourselves. But if you allow yourself to be someone that makes mistakes but can learn from them, then it's not treated as given such a negative connotation. So, for example, with emotional eating, I would look at it as, once we've done it, maybe step back after it's done, because I think we step back after it's done and beat ourselves up. We should step back after it's done and recognize that, okay, this is something that has already occurred. Why? And look into the why of it versus the, oh, I'm such a bad person. Because then it's just a cyclical process. You're just going to continue doing that. Not until you figure out why it's being done. And once you realize why it's being done, being able to allow yourself those times to be free in what you're eating and enjoy. Because a lot of times I have clients that'll say, can I have a cheat meal? And I'm like, it's not a cheat meal, because cheat has this negative connotation that you're going to do something wrong, when it should be a treat. You're treating yourself to experience food that you have been missing out on only because you decided not to include them because of their nutritional number. What I mean by that is, if you're eating something that's mainly carbohydrates or mainly sugar, that's the only nutrition you're getting out of it, but there's a joy in it that it stimulates in the mind. So you should be able to treat yourself. And when you look at it from that aspect, it makes it much more of a process of, okay, this is my journey. I treat myself when I know I've done what I needed to do in order to get to that goal I wanted.
Wow. That was, wow. I really personally needed to hear that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have no doubt somebody listening to this is going to be so inspired. And just my last question for you is, do you have any quote or just any last words you'd like to share before we wrap up to inspire the world? It could be your own quote, just anything you'd like to share.
I think, we are all plants. And like plants, we need sunlight. We need water. We need food from the earth in order to grow. And so once we recognize that, we will see what we truly are in this world is energy that is transferred to each other.
Wow. Torre, thank you very much. I just really want to Thank you again for your time. And it was a lot of fun doing this interview. And look forward to possibly meeting you again in the future and connecting on social media. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate the time that you gave me here. And I love to get this opportunity. I know at times it's very difficult to get with me because, I have a lot going on, and, but it's when I do sit down and have these interviews, I recognize why I enjoy them at the time, but I know it's a process to get here. And sorry about the noise in the background. My cat is playing with her toys.
Oh, no problem. Again, Torre, from my heart to yours, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and I just wish you an awesome Sunday.
Thank you. Same to you, my dear.
All right, thank you. Take care of yourself. Bye for now.
You too.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Hello, beautiful world. That is a wrap from my heart to yours. I really hope that you were able to take away one golden nugget to apply to your life today. The goal of this beautiful podcast, Happiness from Within, is to touch your heart and soul in some sort of way to help you come out of the darkness and into the light. Any sort of value that you've received, if you can do me a favor, if you can take a minute to go over to iTunes, Spotify, or Google Podcast and leave a 5-star review with a comment, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. It helps to spread the message of happiness from within. And you can actually follow Torre Washington on Instagram. He's at torre.washington. I'm actually going to put all his information in the link below. And you can follow myself also on Instagram at Happiness from Within Now. And I actually, as my way of saying thank you, I have some free gifts for you guys. You can find the links below. There is a free PDF, 7 Steps to Finding Your Happiness Now. And also there's a free meditation audio to helping you connect with your mind, body, heart, and soul. And I really hope that these are able to help you find your happiness from within. Wherever you are in the world, I just wish you the most beautiful day. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Bye for now.